Zoom. Wait. Now you're live.
Oh, well, hello there.
Hi, everybody.
Do I have my sound on or?
Yes, that's what I said.
Oh, okay.
You're live.
Well done.
I was being. I'm very. Look, I did it wrong once, and when I make a mistake once, and I'm very conscious of it, I try not to make it again. I nearly said to do it, make it again, which was very strange.
It's fine. That's fine.
I've already had a couple of moments of just not being able to speak this evening, so this should be going well.
Okay, that's fun. I almost fell asleep, so I was like, fuck.
Yeah, we eat now at like 6:30, so it's like if I text my mum, like, please make sure that we're done before 7. Thank you very much. And so we had spaghetti, and it was 1:45, and I went up. Well, I should probably go.
Completely fair.
Yes, these glasses are glasses. I was there when she bought them, which is a very rare thing to be able to say. I have pictures on my phone of the what's the word? The test glasses that they had available because you wanted to see what they look like on you, and you're just standing there like, they're great.
The historical moment of me being like, I'm gonna buy these, and I did. It was the second best thing I bought because the first one was actually it won now. I'm sorry you weren't there, but I wish you were because I am.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
It is gorgeous, isn't it?
Was that hand painted?
No, it's Lunchfly. It's my first Lunchfly bag.
I don't know what that is.
So Lunchfly is basically the official company that does these very beautiful Pixar, Marvel, Disney, and whatever, basically. And this is Coco.
It's very
because
pretty.
Coco is my favorite Pixar movie, as I stated it many times. So the guys who were next to us,
know that I am listening. I'm just going to retweet the thing.
It's okay. So basically, they put it out like in the first 10 minutes that we met them, and I was like, that is mine. It's coming home with me.
Please and put that behind there.
Yes, they didn't believe me, but I was fine. They were coming home with me. I'm very happy with them.
They literally,
and I'm a big child.
Why would you not believe?
Yes, we also made a deal, which I will announce later on. It's a bit of a secret, but it's going to be a good one.
Very good.
Very good one.
Sorry, I
do look like
tweet. There it is. There we go.
Oh my god!
I found it eventually.
I could say anything because it's just
I'm listening. I'm literally right. But what you could be doing something in time. What are you doing? Oh my god! How like what is the softness of that pencil if it actually costs
it's a very Jesus it's a 10B, so that's why it's showing up on my face. Sorry myself. I wanted to put on some mustache because I do.
Yeah, the way you were doing it made it look like you were putting on a Hitler mustache, and I really don't think that would be a very good idea at all.
Oh god, no. Oh god. Yeah, completely fine as per usual.
There we go. I've done it now. I've done my duty.
Oh, yay!
Done.
Katie is finished. That means that we can get into our usual thing, which is talking about movies and TV, and one specific one. But before we do that, do you want to introduce our podcast?
Oh, we haven't done that yet. Shit. Hi, everyone. Welcome to all the films we judged before. I'm Katie. That over there is Lily Kay. Holy moly.
Oh my god. It is me. It's not a boy.
You're really obsessed with this. Like,
I am.
Remember I said there's nobody, nobody gives a shit. Well, I mean, actually, some people give too much of a shit, but those people are terrible and we hate them.
Look, I just realized in the past few days that I do have a bit of a resemblance to Sigourney Weaver when I turn to a certain angle, especially my nose is getting there, so I'm very happy with that. But then if I put on these bad boys, and now especially with my short hair, I could disguise as a guy. Just saying, there might be some interesting cosplays going on. I just need to make my boobs disappear.
you have to be careful about that. Go ask some folks who know about binding. That's a good thing to do.
Okay.
Very important.
Fine. I shall learn. Yes, it is I, and that is Katie, the beautiful, the always wonderful Katie.
Thank you.
What were you watching lately before we get into the big topic?
What have I been watching? So I keep getting emails from YouTube saying that they're updating the terms of service. And
Oh my god!
I get it. You don't need to send it to me on 3 separate accounts. Okay.
Every single day.
Jeez.
Yeah.
What have I been watching? I mean, honestly, well, I mean, last week I. I think we'll probably talk about this for our next episode, which will be going out on Thursday. I did put this in the description, but I doubt anybody actually reads the description. We're here on Friday for 1 week, just because Lily was busy, and then we're going back to our pre-recorded episodes.
Yes.
So we won't be being live anymore, but we'll probably put the premiere events on and everything, because Lily has to go to the cinema on Thursdays, I guess.
I'm sorry. It's my duty to be there on the Thursday.
So there's that. But so we'll be recording a new episode on Sunday with a friend, which will probably talk about all of these things. But obviously, we know that last Friday, the Cowboy Bebop Netflix show came out.
Oh no!
I haven't gone back to it yet. I know.
Oh,
I will.
I haven't even started.
I will go back to it because I feel like I have a duty to finish it. But Christ alive. I've had a lot of conversations this week about what is wrong with it. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I think we were having a little discussion on Saturday with our friend Jessica, who is in our D&D group. Lovely Jessica, who we love very much.
Yes.
And she was telling me that there were some things about it that were quite good. And I was kind of getting in the mood to watch it again. At which point my older brother, texted me and went, "It's horrendous."
Oh, yay. Happy days.
He hated it. So now I'm like, every time I think about doing it, I'm like, but I could be doing better things with my time. Is the trouble.
Yeah. You know, I didn't even start it.
I would be in. I do want to hear what you genuinely think, because I do think it will make for a good discussion, because I do get a sense of enjoyment out of like trying to pick up, instead of just being like, this thing's bad, I like to figure out why, because I think that's more of an interesting conversation and challenge, and a better way to critically watch a thing.
Yeah.
But so I reckon that would make for an interesting conversation. But good lord, I just don't have the energy.
Yes, I kind of have to. Yeah.
I will. I will finish it. I've got some time tomorrow. Maybe I'll do it then. But then instead, because I got 4 episodes in, and I started episode 5, and I went, you know what? I don't want to binge this. I'm going to give it a bit of a break, and I watched Tick Tick Boom.
Oh, I still haven't watched it.
I loved it. I knew I was gonna like it, because I mean I love Rent anyway.
Yeah.
And I love Andrew Garfield. And
Obviously.
I was interested in what Lin-Manuel Miranda can do. You have to really enunciate when you're saying his name, because there's so many similar sounding.
That's so true. I'm always struggling with it.
Lin-Manuel Miranda would have as like a director's voice, and I think he's actually got a lot of promise as a visual medium director. So that's very fun. But I've been wanting to see, or like I've been wanting to listen to Tick Tick Boom for ages. And I remember a while ago wanting to look up the soundtrack and listen to it. And that's when I found out that they were making the movie. So I put off listening to the soundtrack so I could hear it in, because I liked, more often than not, I like to listen to a musical soundtrack in context of the thing that it's in. It's not that often that I listen to the soundtrack before I see the play. It's usually if I feel like there's like, the idea of me being able to see it is like so distant, or like, the only other example is when the Moulin Rouge Broadway soundtrack came out. I was like, I have to hear Aaron Tveit do El Tango de Roxanne. It's very important. And plus, it's not like it gives away the whole lot of the plot. And I'd seen the movie. So it was like, it didn't feel so bad about that one. But this one, I really wanted to wait until I saw it in context. It was very hard, because they put the soundtrack out on Monday, like the movie soundtrack out, and then the movie came out on Netflix on Friday. And then they put out this little clip from the first song, and I listened to it, and then I was like, I have to wait like 3 days I really want to listen to the soundtrack. Then I watched the movie and it was great, and I saw all the songs in context, and now I've been listening to pretty much nothing but the soundtrack for the past week. I decided to give it a bit of a break because I think I was wearing it out a bit too much. I've gone back to the solo album that I had been listening to quite a lot, but it's been a while since I've been able to listen to a movie, like a musical soundtrack, and like learn it. So I'm having a lot of fun. I'm sure my family are probably a bit sick of having to hear me. They'll never say anything.
Yeah,
which is nice, but I imagine they'll probably be like, "Oh, again." At least my dad will. He hates musicals.
Oh God, how can you hate musicals?
I don't understand. But he's got a very specific he doesn't like music with a whole lot of words.
What's the point then?
Because he likes like the actual orchestration and stuff like that. He likes.
Okay.
He used to work in a recording studio. I think he likes the sort of that sort of aspect of it. So he listens to a lot of like funk, and that nice. In that sort of, especially that kind of like 70s era music and those sort of thing. So if I hear anything along like those lines, I tend to think of Dad, which is nice. But it means that but for me, I like music with a lot of words. I really like being able to learn words. But he just doesn't get on with it at all. He's like, there's too many words. It distracts from the music. I'm like, but the melody is the music.
Fair. Okay. I can understand it this way then. Fine. All right. What else?
I haven't really been watching a whole lot of stuff. I'm not gonna lie, because I feel like I'm in a bit of a dry period. We had a little discussion about this the other day. I'm looking for the new hyperfixation.
Oh my God, yes.
Because I feel like I'm a little dry on things, and I keep going back to old stuff to see if I can like squeeze out some of the serotonin it used to give me. But what I'm looking for is something new, and I haven't found it yet. So I've been playing a lot of games instead. So I've been kind of poking my way through The Witcher 3, and I've gone back to the Great Ace Attorney on my Switch. And I've been playing Animal Crossing again. Little things like this just to kind of entertain in that way. But I haven't been watching a whole lot. I haven't really been to I mean, the last thing I saw in the cinema was The Eternals, and we're going to talk about that next time we speak. That'll be next week.
With a friend. With a friend. We won't be alone. It's going to be the three of us.
Yeah.
Talking. It's going to be, exciting.
Yeah. Sorry, I just
excellent.
suddenly started thinking about the logistics of that. We'll talk about that later.
We will. Alrighty.
I am wearing my anime what t-shirt.
I saw it. I noticed it immediately.
I bought this whilst I was at Comic-Con with Lily, funnily enough.
Yes, that's it, true. What
have you been watching, if anything?
Let's see. Well, the only new thing. Well, that's not true. I watched another thing today. Started it. So I watched, bless you. I watched Last Night in Soho, which we texted about yesterday.
Yep.
Because I had feelings.
I don't entirely disagree on a lot of them as well.
Yeah. I think Edgar Wright has a very good sense of what he wants. I just think that, as I said it a million times, so I will say it again, horror is one of the most difficult things to nail. And I don't think that part especially was successful for him.
I would say it feels more like it's got elements, it leans more in the thriller sense than it does in the... But I do think that like if some things had been tweaked a bit, it would feel scarier.
Yes. 100%.
Like I said a few times, the sequences with all the ghosts, they're kind of shown in the trailer a little bit, so I don't think that's too much of a spoiler. And it's like you get the idea in the trailer, I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
They're a bit long. Like some of the like running away from them sort of sequences are a bit like, okay, I get it. I'm not feeling too threatened here.
Yeah, exactly. It's it was a weird one. First off, it's because the protagonist of this whole thing is played by a girl who I actually realized while I was texting you that she was actually in Jojo Rabbit, in which she was brilliant and I loved her there. And then I watched the incredibly bad Old from M. Night Shyamalan.
Well, I reckon in that case, that one is a case of a bad script and some bad direction.
Obviously. She was horrible in that one. But I'm not going to lie, she didn't improve that much in here.
This one, I feel like the character was a bit sort of like, I couldn't figure out how introverted she was meant to actually be. Because she had her moments of being like weirdly sort of like, I guess extroverted, but that feels like a very simplified. There was like she felt shy, and in some places she felt oddly confident, and in a way that didn't like make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. She was a bit odd.
It was very weird. It was I would put it like it was like a very weird experience because I couldn't really connect with her. So actually, I think her scenes of distress and whatnot was more on the annoying side than anything else, if I'm honest. Like,
could feel that in places. Yeah,
I was like,
especially because she didn't. It's one of the. It's that thing of like you aren't communicating properly.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, I don't know what to do with you, but this is just not it. I don't, especially if we are putting this, and many are putting this into the horror category. If I am putting it there, these kind of characters that she was playing are just not it. Like it's just not flying for me in a horror movie. It's like there's no talk, there's no any communication. It's just she suddenly gets so distressed. Like she literally, there are scenes where she literally goes from 0 to 100 like this, and it was more of an overacting for me at parts. Even I was like, oh god, this is just no, it's too much. I think I liked the parts way more, and I think that made an even more interesting movie if they kept this dynamic between her and Anya Taylor-Joy. Did I say it?
Yeah.
Anya Taylor-Joy. Did I?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's her name.
I'm so good. I'm getting there. I will learn it. I always mix it with Aaron Taylor-Johnson.
Yeah, Anya Taylor-Joy, you're right.
Anya Taylor-Joy, beautiful. She was perfect. Like I loved her in this one. She was beautiful. But I think what came out of it in the end is especially something that I didn't like. Like especially now that I had time to think about it, I'm like, I don't know if I like it. I don't like the ending. Like I think there was something more in there.
Yeah, I think what my trouble with it was that it had so much build up, and then the ending happened so quickly. And then the kind of there's a little bit spoilery here. Yes. There's like a bit of a time jump, and it's like a time jump in which everything's suddenly fine.
Yeah,
and I just kind of went, that I almost was like, is this even real?
Yeah.
Is this actually happening? So it was a bit sort of like, it went so far in the other direction, it was a bit like, I felt that there was a level of nuance that was a bit missing. Like you said, it was very much it was 0 to 100, and there wasn't a whole lot in between. I think all the interesting stuff that was in between was in all the stuff that happened in Soho in the past.
Yeah. Yes.
Those were genuinely the best parts of
they were, yeah.
And I told you, and I think I teased it a little bit. There's a sequence with a certain performance, with a marionette based performance that I genuinely was sitting there like, oh, I don't like this at all, but like in a good way.
Yeah.
Like this is meant to be really uncomfortable, and it's really succeeding right now.
It did. It definitely. That was the first time where I was like, oh.
It really just does it. Oh, it's awful.
Yeah. I agree.
That one really, that was nailed.
So yeah, altogether, I think it wasn't bad. Like I'm not saying
I think
that
it's a pretty.
it was bad.
I think it's one of those things. I was talking to my brother about this. My younger brother. I said that he's still 6 foot, but like, in my head he's small. He's my younger brother, therefore he's small.
Obviously.
About this, and it's like because he watched The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo yesterday, David Fincher
The
one.
original one.
No, I don't know, the Fincher one with Daniel Craig.
What?
And I was saying that he was like, it's all right, and I was like, yeah, but it's like Fincher's one of those directors that even if he makes a movie that's not like great, it's still good. Like, but like in the bones, it still feels like a filmmaker who knew what they were doing made a decent film. It may just not really sit the best with people.
My message to your brother is watch the original, which is the Swedish one with Noomi Rapace, and just watch that, because the American remake is just.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it purely as like I watched it years ago. I haven't seen it in ages.
Yeah.
As like just as like a Fincher film.
Mm.
It's like I just feel like there are some directors who know the art of filmmaking so well that even when they don't make a great film, it still feels solid. Like the foundation feels solid, even if the details seem a bit like not as well executed as maybe you'd want it to. If that makes any sense at all.
It does make sense, but on this case, on the Fincher Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, I just don't agree. That the original is unbeatable. That was like when I watched the original one, the Swedish one, I didn't read the books at that point, which are brilliant books, by the way. And that movie made me understand the whole thing very, very easily. Like they translated it almost to perfection. My father told me afterwards, like what was left out and whatnot, and even the decisions that they made to what scenes to leave out and whatnot, that was like very well done. And then the American came out. It was never they never did the next installments, because
it didn't make the money back.
Nah,
it wasn't like, it wasn't reviewed badly. I mean, it wasn't like a review like I don't. It didn't do like terribly critically, but like it really bombed at the box office.
It did bomb. It did. And to be honest, like my point in it being is that I watched the American version then, and I was like, I understood this movie, the original one, and now I just don't, because they made it so freaking confusing. I was like, I don't know what happened to this, but yeah, just that's why I'm saying things like, don't touch Train to Busan, because I'm going to be very angry with that movie, I have a feeling, unless it's really.
I don't know if you saw there was like there was an article the other day that said that what they were planning on like the subtitle, the what they were calling it, and I just looked at it and went, Lily's gonna blow a gasket. It's really bad. I think it's something like The Last Train to New York. It's like, just don't do it. There's no point.
I honestly can't do it anymore. It's just don't. I'm not gonna watch it.
No,
I've got to be honest.
Why not? Why would you?
Now I have to watch the original. I just can't. My heart hurts. Which reminds me that the other new thing that I started today, because I am so not in time. Like I don't remember days. It all got confused because of the whole weekend Comic-Con, which was very good, by the way. That Hellbound came out. Is the new series of from the director of Train to Busan, and the first episode is incredibly interesting so far. I will say that the effects are not too great.
Yeah, I wasn't huge on the design of the sort of strange smoke monstery things.
Let's call them demons, because are
they meant to be demons?
They are demons. Yeah. They are the ones that drag you down to hell, basically. Yeah. Those are not great. But they are not really in it. To be fair, like yes, they are featured, but it's once again the deeper things that I love in Korean filmmaking.
I'm sure that it's good. Like I heard. I hadn't seen too many people who'd seen it, but the people who I did see who had watched it were very positive about it. That was a very convoluted sentence.
But I know what you mean. Yeah. I'm at the first episode, so I didn't watch many. But it's very promising already, and I am already invested in it, so I can't wait to watch it. Which I will just share a news, because I was very about it, very, very about it. I can't.
Look,
you see that 20% news is like.
We do words good.
That 20% title just fucking murdered me. Yeah. I think my brain stopped working. So our beloved Donna Bay just shared a new
the
series
thing.
that is coming.
Yeah.
Yes, it's gonna be called The Silent Sea,
Mm.
and it's gonna be a Korean epic playing on the moon. And it features on the moon one of my other favorite actors, Gong Yoo, who was the main character in Train to Busan, for example. And he also appeared.
Right, yes, the handsome gentleman.
The dead. Yes, the handsome gentleman. Yes, the dead. And he was also in Squid Game.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
not
much, but he was in it a little bit.
He was in there. When he showed up, I was like, my boy!
Yeah, I think a lot of people, I think that was kind of the intention, to be like, hey, it's that guy. I think they were a bit more specific than that, but for me it was like, hey, it's that guy.
I literally had that. My boy is here. But yes, I am very excited for this one because it's going to be my Christmas gift. I decided it's coming out on the 24th, so
fair enough.
It's fair enough. But yeah, that's literally all I've been watching, other than Merlin. And I am at the final season, and it's getting to me again. I'm like, I just hate that ending so much that words can't even describe it properly.
What is it about? Wait, which part of the ending? The bit where, like, again, I realized that Merlin ended what? 2012.
2012, I think. Yeah, around. So
it's been nearly 10 years. I'm going to spoil the ending.
Yeah, we can.
Is it the thing? Is it because he dies, or is it because there's the weird bit at the end where he's walking around in old man makeup in present day?
Both. I just hate both completely. I'm like, no. There's like, you had, look, Merlin changed so much about Arthur's story that I think if they would have changed his ending, wouldn't have mattered. So I was a bit baffled by why because let's be honest, this was a happy, cheery family show at the end of the day. Yes, they made it a bit darker.
It's British and we like to kill things.
It's so annoying. It just, I am
even
dreading
on Saturday night entertainment.
I'm dreading watching that last episode because I am already on season 5, episode 3. Also, I will say this. I don't know if you're going to understand because you haven't watched it in a long time, but I am very grateful for season 5, episode 1 and 2 for a specific reason.
I don't remember what happened.
Let's just say that look at it's it's Grain. It's involving Grain, and Grain is spending a lot of time shirtless in those 2 episodes, and I'm like,
lovely. I do love Owen Macken. I'll watch him in it. He's just lovely.
I love him. I once met him, and I didn't know I met him.
Oh,
that's the fun story of it. Like, I literally didn't know it was him because I didn't recognize him without the long hair.
Arthur's Bane.
Yeah, Arthur's Bane.
Oh. Yes, I don't remember this at all. I want to go back and because I watched the first series again, and it's the first 2 series. I feel like at least the first series and a half are they're very Saturday night entertainment. Where it's just we sort everything out and it's fine. There's some hijinks. It makes me die inside with secondhand embarrassment in multiple places, which is why I find it so hard to go back to because I just kind of oh god, no, not again. I hate it. But I do remember not like initially like when it was on, not liking the turn of Morgana because I liked Morgana.
I loved Morgana.
I was like, why do they make her evil? But like I have to admit that there's something great about evil Katie McGrath.
Yeah, Katie McGrath is great as evil, but it was so hard to accept that change, especially because they make her so likable in the first 2 seasons that I'm like, I love the Arthurian legends, and I read the books and whatnot. Therefore, Merlin is very, very dear to my heart. But and I knew it was coming. I knew that Morgana can stay on the good side at the end, but it was still like it was a hard transition. I was like, I can't. I can't. But I love that Arthur actually asks so many times at this point, like, why why are you like this? And I'm like, yes, because I kept remembering that
Why
they
are you
just
like
don't.
this?
Yes, they just don't address things like this. And I was like, I remember being frustrated, but now that I'm watching it, I'm like, okay, they actually do address these things, and it actually makes me okay with it, because I'm like, yes, that's a completely normal question in this situation, especially if the villain decides to talk to you before trying to murder you.
Wait, why are you doing this?
Wait. Oh God. But yes, I am very much enjoying when dreading the ending. But I looked back the gag reel recently, and I find it hilarious that Anthony had just can't stop laughing at things, which is like.
Have you seen the clip of them doing You're the Voice?
Yes.
That's one of my favorite. I every so often I get that song in my head, and all I can think about is the two of them just like bopping along.
Love them. Love them.
And obviously there's a post that's gone around Tumblr for yonks now of just like people in period clothing doing modern day things, and it's just a picture of Anthony Head holding like a pink Nintendo DS thing. Well, I'm assuming it's probably like brain training, like brain training, because it's like, you know, the side face.
Yep.
It's like bright. I'm like, I love it. It's so good.
Oh my God, I love Anthony, and I'm not gonna lie,
He's wonderful.
So cool. He's so wonderful. I am still regretting my decision not to see it. Well, I found out about him coming to London Film and Comic Con, the last one they did in 2020, the spring one in February. And I found out that he was coming there very late, so I didn't manage to get a ticket for him. And I was like, oh. So sad. So sad. But anyway, yeah.
Sorry, I felt like that was something I wanted to. I thought I needed to do that, but it may arrive later.
Bless you in advance.
Thank you. I love that you blessed me for birthday.
Every time. But yeah, and one more note: the next week is going to be crazy because my early birthday present's arriving.
Oh yeah,
which is Lost in Space season 3.
Is that Wednesday?
It is Wednesday, so you know, it's a good thing we are pre-recording. I'm just saying, because I'm gonna be like off, like I don't care about anything. I will be binge watching Lost in Space and die and cry, probably cry even more. And oh my God, I can't handle the fact that it's gonna end. I'm so sad. But also then on the 3rd, Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous season 4 is arriving.
See, so for me, the 3rd is the day they're finally releasing the early access to the new expansion for Final Fantasy 14, which was meant to come out last week, and then they delayed it for 2 weeks. So I'm like, I want to play.
So we're all getting gifts. Yeah. That's what's important.
And I'll spend the weekend playing it, I'm sure, with some friends of mine. We'll see how far I get. Probably not very. Who knows?
Oh, and we're getting back to D&D as well.
Yes, that will be then as well. And then on Monday, the 6th, I'm going to see Moulin Rouge in the West End.
Oh, the musical?
Yeah. I've had these tickets booked since like May, so I'm very excited.
Okay, now I'm officially very, very envy of you. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean,
if you don't know, that's one of my favorite musicals of all time.
I mean, it was one of those. I went and looked at the cast today, and it was a bit like look, the guy playing Christian on the West End. I'm sure he's got an incredible singing voice. He's no Aaron Tveit.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm sure he's wonderful. I'm just sort of like, you're not Aaron.
Completely fair.
But like, I'm very excited to see it because I do love. That movie is very good, and the soundtrack that they released for the Broadway version is fucking fantastic.
It is very good. I am very jelly. It's one of my favorite love stories because someone dies in it.
So classic.
I just realized.
Don't worry, everybody. Dean is dead by the end of it.
I'm just weird, okay? I love stories where someone dies. I'm fucking weird.
I watched I watched that movie and I was like, this is fun. And then genuinely that whole sequence where they do El Tango de Roxanne, and I think it's because they take a really good song and they kind of change it up a bit. instead of like just mashing it in with a bunch of other ones. It genuinely, I was sitting there going like, this is kind of fucking phenomenal.
Oh my god, when Ewan McGregor hits that high note in there, and then Roxanne achieves that very, very high key as well, and they do it at the same time. I'm like,
I don't actually remember what the original sounds like now because I've listened to the other one so many times. They're very similar, but there are slight differences between them.
Yeah. But the original, like,
I did love
nothing can beat that.
I don't know. I've got such a soft spot for Aaron Tveit.
I know you do, but Ewan McGregor in that song is just perfection. Like, it for me, the movie version beats it all. Like
the one that they've got on the soundtrack is not nearly actually as good as what a bootleg like recording that I heard him do. Yeah, because he like goes for it, and it's like fuck yes, yes, so true. But my favorite one is The Show Must Go On. Is one of my soft spots. I love that. I love the pitch. Pitch is the pitch is fun. I think they added a few more songs into the pitch. The classic songs into the Broadway one. The annoying thing is that those two that you just mentioned are not on the like normal soundtrack for the movie.
Unfortunately,
so I don't know them as well in that. But in the movie one.
But Baz Luhrmann actually put it up properly.
Yeah, there is a longer one, but I didn't listen to that. I don't know if it was all. I can't remember why. I think I found it like way late on. It was like it's like after Les Mis the movie came out. I listened to the shortened soundtrack so much that when the extended one came out, I was like, this just feels weird. I just didn't listen. Like I'd only go in for like a Little Fall of Rain because that's not on the other one. And as everybody knows, you have to skip the battle track because it's boring.
It is.
It's just a bunch of battle noises. The only part of that one that I know is the bit at the beginning where they go cannons, and then I go skip.
Fair, completely fair. But yeah, okay. I think we can move on.
How long have you been doing
to your thing?
Hang on, it's been 40 minutes.
I know.
I'm sorry. At all. Anyway.
Well, once we get into it, it's tangents all the way. But yes.
Anyway, so we're here to talk about, because last time we talked about your favorite show. Now we're talking about my favorite show.
We do.
So it's Leftovers. This is Kevin. He doesn't have a very good time.
Once again,
nobody does.
Like that's just a general thing for the whole show.
True. Nobody has a good time. But it's good, I swear.
Do I go first? Do you want to go first?
Well, I feel like I should do the mini synopsis just for people who might not know. Because I think this is one of the easiest shows that I've actually got that I can actually summarize pretty easily. Because it's got very much like a very short, like, what if statement. But I don't phrase it. You know what I mean. Essentially, on the... Hang on, I have to remember the date properly. 18th of October, 2011. Inexplicably, 2% of the world's population suddenly vanished. This equates to roughly 140 million people at the time. Nobody knows what happened, and the series picks up about 3 years after the fact, with a bunch of people just trying to figure out what the fuck they want to do with themselves now that there's been this sort of global travesty that just there was no explanation for, and still nobody has found an explanation for. So you get to... You have a little look into the lives of some people who... I always found the interesting part in the first season. Didn't seem to be directly affected by it, but are still affected by it, because it's like I mean, it's like with a pandemic, right? Just because you haven't had it, or like your family haven't had it, it's still like it affects everyone, and therefore everybody is affected. So that is the main...
Pretty much.
That's the main premise. We follow the Garveys, none of whom are doing very well, along with the rest of the world. But I think it's a beautiful story about understanding grief and figuring out how to be with it and live alongside it, and not necessarily even move past it, just figure out what it means in a state when you don't really have any answers for anything. And I think that the show does a very good job of, like, by the end of it being like, you just keep going. That is the way you do. There is no other thing. It's just like, this thing has happened, and there's no right way to go about it. But now I want to hear more about what you think. Please go ahead.
So, as Katie knows, it took me some time to watch this series. I'm not gonna lie, after the first 2 or 3 episodes, I think it was 3 episodes, I got so depressed by this show that I couldn't. I was like, nope, it's not gonna happen. I can't do it. But then I think my curiosity got the best of me, and I actually did run back and finish it very quickly, very, very quickly, because I was just, I was interested to know how they basically translated, because this is from a book.
It is from a book. A book I still haven't read. I have the book with all the intention in the world to read it, and I just haven't read it. I think we've got a couple of pages in. It's like, what do you mean Kevin's the mayor? I put it down. So I have it essentially on my shelf, and every so often I'm like, I should read that, and then I don't.
It's also a very heavy book to read.
Yeah.
Like I remember that I actually did read the book, and there's actually an explanation to what happened to that 2%.
And you realize that I lied to you multiple times when you asked me. And it's because when the show came out, Damon Lindelof, who folks usually know from Lost, it was a big question because Lost obviously had like no explanation really. And people were very annoyed about this, despite the fact that he kept saying that there was going to be an explanation. It was one of those sorts of like, this is what you have for us, this is shit things. So he, from the outset, was like, this show is not about what happened. And stop asking the questions because it's not important to what's going on.
Yeah.
And now I feel like there is a sense of we've spoiled a bit. They do kind of explain things at the end, but it's not as easy as it seems, I think.
It's not, yeah. But yes, altogether, I thought that it was like, it's a very good show. It's very, very well done. I wouldn't call it the best show ever, but I do get why you like it so much. I would put it like this, like, I will definitely not watch it again. I will also put this out there. Like,
honestly, it is fair. Every time I'm like, I think if you are to watch, you have to be in the right mindset for it. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
Maybe the first time, I guess something about it, the first time I watched it was like, it's one of those things where it came out into my life at exactly the time that maybe I needed to see it. Because it solidified a lot of things that I think maybe I had been thinking about. I mean, it definitely is the sort of stopgap. I guess I don't think that's the word I'm really looking for, but it's the thing I kind of lean against when I try to explain like a worldview that I might have, because it holds a lot of those for me.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not watching it again. Like, I was way too depressed by it. I'm not gonna lie, and I immediately remember that the book also made me very depressed. So, they did a good job translating it in, because it was there, the feeling was there. I think I told you this, that I think where I got a bit stuck on it, I would say, well, I don't even know if it's being stuck on it or not, is that the idea behind it, because obviously I am watching this after seeing Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame, and 2% next to 50% seems like, they portray it really well in here. Like, even that number is a big number.
It's a big number, but it's that thing of like, not everybody loses everybody, but like, somebody who knows somebody. It's enough to affect people, but it's not enough to be like, it's not 50%, right? It's like you said, it's like, it's small enough for it to be like, this is a thing that happened, but like, most of us are still here. I don't really know what to do with that, and that really builds into like the whole premise of the show.
They did that brilliantly. Like, I'm not saying I'm not, but I think because I don't know if I said it in our podcast or not, but I love the atmosphere and the feeling they created in that opening sequence once Scott comes back in Endgame and, you know, sees the empty streets and stops that kid to ask what happened and whatnot. I just love the feeling that is there, that it's put into it. I think it's brilliantly done, and I think I was expecting something very similar to that one here, and I think that affected how I looked at it and why it didn't feel as big of a deal, I guess, to a certain level. Which is, you know, it's because I am watching it afterwards, so I'm like, I am definitely affected by the whole thing.
Stupid Marvel.
Stupid Marvel. No, Marvel still hire me, yeah. But yeah, you can never know who's listening. Okay. Anyway,
see you wearing giant sunglasses.
It's not just any sunglasses.
I know. But you've got there's a glare half the time.
Okay, I can't. Anyway, that was my wink. If you haven't seen it yet, you are now. But yeah, altogether, very good show. I think what was a bit hard for me is I couldn't really like anyone in it. I had a very hard time connecting to anyone because everyone felt like they were kind of a bit of assholes a little bit at some points, and I was like,
you know, they are kind of assholes. A lot of them do a lot of assholey behavior.
There is, and it was like a bit of much at times. I was like, you're just so infuriating. But there were very good episodes, especially in this case, which is always very surprising at any TV series. All of the season finales were very good.
Fucking phenomenal. Every single one of them is incredible.
all of them are like fucking awesome. This is a very big exception that I loved the ending of the show, actually.
I loved this ending of this show. I think it's beautiful. So one of the things about this show was that it was meant to run for more seasons.
Yes.
But it never had the viewership, really. So the fact that they got the third season when they did, it was a bit sort of like, this is going to be your last one. You're not going to get as many episodes, but you will get to finish it out. And I do think that I was sitting there going like, I don't want this to end. I love it so dearly. But like, I do now looking at it, I'm like, if they'd gone on for longer, I don't know if it would have been as wonderful. As much, I don't know if I would have appreciated it as much. I think that sort of 3 seasons is genuinely sort of perfect for it.
Yeah. So yeah. That's
I wish I didn't prepare any questions like you did. Okay, well,
I get nervous with questions. But yes.
I'll go from. I feel like, as the title of this is a discussion of the whole show, there will be more. I think we'll be going into some more specific plot spoilers from here on out. So if you're interested in watching it, and I think you absolutely should, obviously look after yourself because it's a heavy show. It's about like the whole premise, like I said, is about grief and like the not knowing what to do with the kind of grief where you don't know what happened to the people that you lose and like the way it affects other people and all that sort of stuff. So it's heavy. So, you know, look after yourselves. But I do also recommend it, like 1,000%, always, to anybody. I'm like, just please, I promise, it's good. But I will say, well, let's go with this first. You said you weren't huge on everybody. Did you come out of it liking anybody by the
end? Names. I have my cheat sheet here.
If you describe characters, I could probably have their names to mind because I do. I do most people in the show quite well.
Yes, I know you do. I think the most likable character was Nora.
See, that's the thing. Nora is the best.
Yeah.
And I've said this many times. I say this every time.
You did.
Carrie Coon not getting an Emmy for this show is a fucking like travesty. She's phenomenal in it.
It's very good.
Oh man.
I think I liked her the most, like out of every, like, don't get me wrong, all the acting is very good.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't have any problem with that. And I think it was meant to feel like they were a little bit assholey at times.
Yeah.
Like, it's it's okay. But if I have to pick someone who was just a standout, that's Gary Coon as Nora. She was brilliant. I think she did an amazing job. So yeah, her.
I think the thing about Nora is that, for me, is that I feel like I hadn't seen a woman in that kind of grief before, and like in that kind of, in the way that she really quite like I think that's the thing you really need to the way to understand anybody in this show is like, oh, they're in so much pain. And then it's like the only thing you need to understand about and it's about everybody, because you might be like, why are they acting like this? And then you go, oh, there was a world trauma and nobody knows how to deal with it. Nobody knows. It's like, and some of it is like, I think it comes from, and I think in Kevin's case specifically, he was having this sort of feeling of like listlessness before it all happened, and then he kind of ended up being even more sort of rocked by it. I think everything about this Kevin in this show is like, every season something huge happens and he realizes that there was like he wants a port in the storm, but he doesn't know how to have it. Everybody's just depressed. That's the thing.
Basically, yeah.
They're all really depressed and they don't know how to deal with it. But like it becomes especially exacerbated after the fact. And I think about Nora for me was that it was like, she didn't become mopey, she became angry about it. And I feel like you don't, but like in a way that, because it was like, she doesn't seem, the Nora we get to know after the fact doesn't feel very much like a mother, I guess, in the most like traditional sense of the character. She doesn't feel like the soft, caring sort of like, but she was clearly I think she was a very good mum. But and then I think that, and I'm going to ask you this question properly in a bit, but one of the reasons why episode 9, the first series, the Garveys at their best, is one of my favourites episodes of the whole thing. Not just because my favourite piece of direction in anything ever is in that episode, but because it puts everything in perspective for like the entire first season for me. Because you get to see the moment and they call it the departure in the show. It's called when everybody vanished, they called it the departure. I think there's more of a reference to the sort of religious aspects of it in the book than they went into the show. But I mean, that's kind of like
I am not missing that, to be honest.
But that angle is very nicely sort of viewed through Christopher Eccleston, who plays Matt, who is her brother in this. His episodes are also some of my favorites because they do the most absurd things with him, and I love the way that they portray Faith through his sort of like character lens. But yeah, she, like, the moment the departure happens, she's having like a row with her husband and her kids are acting like brats. And she's like clearly taking them for granted in that moment. And then suddenly they're gone and she's just like, I think it hits her in that moment, and then she kind of has to sit with this for like the next X how many years the series takes, where she's like, I didn't appreciate my family enough because they were being assholes. And I think she has to come to terms with the fact that sometimes her family were assholes, and it was okay for her to feel that way about them, even if they are now just gone. God, I love Nora. I love everybody in the show. I think they're all so fascinating. I think everybody's was written with so much nuance and like, shit. It's yeah. I mean, I could go on forever about everybody, but my next question would then be, did you have an episode that stood out to you the most, or as a favorite, or anything like that?
I think that definitely the Garveys at their best. That's a standout on every level. you get to understand the story more, and it's like, okay, like there was a lot of like
that that one in particular is very, I think, is the most important one for Laurie, because I think she's the most difficult to understand.
Yes,
in her entirety throughout the whole first season, and like right at the end of it, and this is the piece of direction that I love the most, because it really was that thing of like, and I love storytelling that does this properly, where it sets up stuff beforehand and then it puts things in perspective with just like one tiny piece of information. Like it was like, I didn't understand Laurie at all, and I really didn't like her like for much of the first series, and then it has that bit right at the end of the episode where, because by that episode you then find out she's pregnant again, and then there's the it's just the shot of her at the end, like you're seeing all the other departures happen, and then you see her look at the ultrasound that she's happening, because she looks away and then she looks back, and you don't even cut over to what happened. You just see it on her face, and it was like, oh, everything about you makes sense to me now. Everything.
Yeah.
And I think it's just so genius. It's like, you've just done, it was all set up for this, and you've done one shot, and everything makes sense. It's so good.
I think what was also very good, and I like to notice like this little things in TV shows, and I like when they pay attention to it. Like, I think it is confirmed that Patty was Laurie's patient.
Yes. So
and then after the departure, Laurie became Patty's patient.
Patient in a sense, yeah.
Patient in a sense, and I for one love that. Like it's those small little details, and I also love that. I think this and maybe one more episode ends with no music at all at the end credits, and I'm like, yeah, that makes it even happier. Like, it's like, shit.
Yeah, there's a couple of them where you just have to sit there
going, fuck. Why? Why are you doing this? And then, funnily enough, I think I like the first season the most, which is very strange.
Interesting. A lot of people don't feel that way.
I don't know why, because it has some really fucked up things in it, like the dogs.
The dog. I honestly wasn't sure you. My first thought, whenever I think of the shit that happens in the first season, is the stoning that happens at the beginning of the 5th episode.
Fair. The first thing I think about is the dogs.
I can't upset about this.
I was very upset. I was like,
that is such a big thing. Every time somebody's like, what are they doing to these, like, why are they being such assholes to these dogs? And I can't help it, because they say it so much in the show. My brain just goes, they aren't our dogs anymore. Because that's the thing that they tout, because the idea is that supposedly they were the ones who properly witnessed the event, and therefore they went a bit crazy.
Yeah.
But then it becomes that whole thing about him taking the dog and wanting to rehabilitate it, because it's like he sees himself in it, man. He wants to see himself be able to come back from this. Symbolism.
I know, but it still annoys the shit out of me. I'm like, I was so angry with that. Like, I think that was the first time I texted you about it.
Yeah, you did. Because you were like, are they going to do this very much? And I'm like, I think the one at the end of the first episode is really the only time you see it happen a lot. They kind of reference it from that point.
They reference it, and that's even more.
Is it?
Oh god, I can't. Also, shit. Okay, just a quick turn back to our beginning tangents.
Oh my
I also watched Hawkeye. Like,
I haven't watched that at all. Yeah.
It's brilliant.
I've heard it's fun. That's the impression.
It is very fun.
It's like street level. Some shit's going on. It's fun.
Yes, it's very fun. I will say this. I love Vera Farmiga. She's brilliant as always. If that dog dies or anything happens to it, I will murder the entire Marvel Studios. I don't give a shit. And Kate Bishop is great. That's it. That was the little tangent that I had to put in there, because I did watch Hawkeye. But yes, I think altogether, I still like season 1 a bit more than I like the other.
Funny to me, because like a lot of people don't like season 1 at all, and then really love the other season. I love all of it.
I know it.
I love all of it. I love it. I think the first season has such a different vibe to the other two, because obviously the first season very much directly adapts the events of the book, and then the other two are brand new sort of content. Yes. But what I like about this show, and like from the writing standpoint, is that Tom Perrotta, who wrote the book, is also one of the writers on the show. He was very heavily involved from the beginning. He's one of the producers. He wrote for the show, and I think it helps from that standpoint where it feels like from the basis, this feels like it was handled by somebody who understands who these people are. Which is nice. I always like that. But one of the things I actually love about the later seasons, and I think that a lot of people kind of gravitate towards, is and I know you weren't. I don't know how sure you are about this, but I like how utterly absurd it gets, and I think the fact that they play into it. Yeah. It's very fun, especially because, I mean, the show, like you said, it's depressing. It's really heavy.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that they were able to go in with these later seasons and be like, we're going to do some really weird shit.
I do like that. I'm not gonna lie. I like that, because as you said, if you don't have if you are not in the right mindset, just don't start watching it. Yeah. Honestly, I think when I started watching it, I definitely wasn't ready for it. So that's why I was like, nope.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair.
Stop it now. But I did go back to it very secretively. I
was working and then suddenly got this message through. Like, I finished the leftovers. Like, I have like 10 minutes of until wrap, and then I won't be home for another hour. Oh my god. I need to talk about this. And then I went, you tell me you hated it, I'm going to cry.
You did right then. No, I think you know, I think it would be very hard to hate this series. Like it's just very good. It is, in spite me saying that you know, obviously it's very depressing and that's very hard to handle. It doesn't mean that it's not good or that they didn't do a good job creating you know, the story, the characters, and the whole build up to it. I am very glad actually, because you mentioned it, that they didn't pull in all the religious stuff that was in the book.
I mean, it's because, like, there's some stuff in there, and I think that, like I said, it's kind of framed through Matt, because he is he's a priest and all that.
He is,
yeah. I can't remember what kind of church he works in. I think he's a Catholic.
No. Yeah.
I don't remember.
It's much heavier in the book, and I remember not really liking it, to be honest.
I think that's part of the reason why I do like honestly, any show that does like a sense of like does a representation of Catholicism that makes me go, oh, this actually does feel familiar to me, I tend to be quite receptive to.
Yeah. I can understand that, because what we talked about with one of our friends, Kelly, when we were watching Midnight Mass, is Midnight Mass, for example, is a show that you know, for me it's not the usual thing to watch. Like I don't really like movies or TV shows or anything that centers around fate and the different beliefs and whatnot. So I always have a bit of a hard time with them, but I think if you grasp it right and you do it right, it can be actually very good, and even for people like me who are not really into these kind of things, and I think maybe I would say that was the only weakness in this book that just couldn't get to me. Like I obviously, in a situation like this, it would come up. And it would be very important, and people would look at it from a why did God?
It's one of the big reasons why The Guilty Remnant gets so much attention. Like that's why it was one of the things that got it. I read about before I went into the show was the idea that like religion was on a downside because like there was no sort of like, why would God do this? Like you said, that sort of thing. But then cults kind of came up on the upswing because people wanted like a faith or like a system to believe in, and it became for a lot of people that became The Guilty Remnant, because it was like it feels it was a lot of people being like, it feels like the world's trying to move on from this, and it should be the only thing we're talking about. It should be the only thing we're thinking about at all times. And it was just a different way for a bunch of depressed people to be like, I don't know how to get over this, so I'm not going to get over it. I'm just going to wear white and smoke a lot.
Yeah.
Basically. It's a bit more nuanced than that. But...
It is more nuanced. They also very much annoyed me. I'm not gonna lie.
They're awful.
They're
awful. I mean, but like, it's one of the big things as well. I started watching it just at the tail end of series 2, which was when Meg was on her power trip into insanity. Meg is awful. Liv Tyler is brilliant.
She's brilliant, but
brilliant.
Meg is just
Meg Tyler is fun. Meg. I don't know what her last name is. Meg's fucked
I think
up.
She is.
But I find she is too much. I find her like she's a very good villain for like a series that doesn't really have much of a villain. You know, the Guilty Remnant is kind of the villain of the piece, if you like.
Yeah. But if we want to look at it that way, then yeah. I agree.
I mean, I don't think, and I'm gonna little trigger warning here for some discussion of sexual assault, real quick. I don't see a whole lot of people talking about the fact that she raped Tommy in series 2. Like she did that, and I never see anybody talk about it. And I think I find it fascinating. In a purely sort of like, you know, narrative sense and that kind of thing, it's like that, and that was it was a rape. He did not consent to that. He was handcuffed to a thing. She did it very forcibly.
Yeah. And
I never see anybody ever talk about it. And I'm like, she's awful. She made it seem like she was going to blow up a school bus full of children, and she was at that point. By the end of it, she clearly joins because, like, she had that sort of sense of, like, she goes in because she wants sort of revenge, as opposed to a lot of people who go in because they want something to kind of believe in and, like, stop and become numb and that sort of thing, you know? It's a big reason why Laurie goes in. But she goes in because she's angry. Because it's like, her mother died before it all happened. And then... like, literally the day... and so everybody forgot about that. It was like, she knows what happened to her mother. Everybody else didn't, and therefore her mother didn't matter anymore. And I think what happened is that it kind of unlocked something in her that she kind of probably had there for the whole time, because, I mean, she was a bit of a coke fiend, and it was always a bit screwy. But, like, it gave her the ability to be like, nothing matters. Okay. Nothing matters. I'm going to commit a lot of crimes now. All of them very targeted on people because they all suck.
I really hated her. I'm not gonna
lie. No, she's not meant to be liked.
No. Especially that rape scene as well, because that's a rape scene.
Horrifying, yeah.
It is very, very bad. And actually the fact and knowing that not many people mention in, you know, I think it should be something that is more talked about indeed.
Because, I found it, I think it was incredibly, I don't want to say brave, that sounds so like patronizing and stuff, but it was like, it's something that is not shown, like ever, the other side. With the idea that because it is a thing that absolutely can happen. Sexual assault can happen to any gender,
men.
And it can happen, and specifically, and it can happen to men. So the fact that I was always, and I always found but it does make me pleased that they did that, in the sense that that was something that isn't seen often.
Yeah.
But
I like. It sounds weird, but yeah.
It's very hard to talk about it in a way that makes it seem like...
It is.
I'm not like praising the idea that it ever happened. No. The fact that they showed it was like, it was new. And
yeah, because it still is a very big problem for men in today's society. Like, you know, if they admit that they were sexually harassed, oftentimes they get, but you're a man, you can't be sexually... Yes, they can. Same way as a woman a man can be sexually harassed and they can get even raped as well. So that it has, as you said, it is nothing to do with gender. And I hate the fact that so many still have to decide to stay silent, because who would care, because they are men.
Yep.
It fucking sucks.
Now, I am going to swerve a little bit away from this just because
I
don't think I have anything else to say. I think we've said everything we need to. But I want to kind of say a little bit, parallel to that. And because I kind of want to go through a lot of these characters, I want to talk about them properly because I think they are kind of the central parts of the show. And I want to talk about Tommy, because I don't think Tommy gets a whole lot of attention. And I think Tommy was one of those characters that it took me a while to, and repeated viewings to understand properly. But I think recently, in the most recent time, and I think season 2 is very important to him. Specifically,
you mean
his son?
His son, yeah.
Because he
names, yes.
Yeah. Technically, if we were being very, Laurie's biological son, but Kevin raised him since he was a child because his actual dad was never really around. So his son, it was his son. I find Tommy's arc in series 2 to be so powerful, specifically because I think it's specifically the scene. I think it's episode 9. She says unsure. I'm not sure exactly, but there's when you find out what happened to. Shit, I can't remember her name. The daughter of Regina King. I wish I could remember her name. Shit. Because the mystery in series 2 is what happened to them, and they try to make it out like because Kevin's having all these blackouts. They're like, did Kevin do something? It's like, no, Kevin wouldn't do something like that. Kevin's too busy.
Evangeline, wasn't it Evangeline?
Evie, that's it.
Evie, there you go.
Thank you. Yeah. When you find out what happens to her, there's like kind of the breaking down of the gates, and that's when Miracle becomes like slightly less sacred ground. Let's put it that way. And I think that what I love about Tommy in that scene, because he is kind of the character that completely loses hope during that whole series. And he gets a bit sort of like, he falls very heavily into Guilty Remnant, and I think he becomes a little bit too embroiled in it, to the point where at the end it seems like he seems like he's fallen too far. But what I love is that sort of white outfit being betrayed in such it comes with such like sorrow and terribleness, because like every time they pop up they're about to do something terrible, right? In the masses. The thing that he decides that it's like the first thing from the moment you meet him, he's working for somebody else, basically. Like he's in that weird cult with the guy who hugs people and takes away their pain. And then and from the moment you meet him, he's like being told what to do, and he takes I think his name's Christy, and like runs away with her, and then all this sort of stuff. And the 2 times he does something kind of for himself are when he takes the baby and gives it to Nora and Kevin, and when he saves the baby on the bridge from the stampede that are entering Miracle. And I think the fact that the time that he really fully breaks away from being somebody else's puppet, he's wearing the Guilty Remnant stuff, and he does something that they wouldn't do. And I just think that that's so incredible.
Yeah.
I found Tommy to be very difficult to pin down, but when I did get there, I was like, oh, like I said, he's just in pain like the rest of them. He doesn't know what to do with himself, so he becomes so listless that he just will listen to anybody else. It's like, you tell me what to do. And then he becomes better when he finally realizes that he just listened to himself and go by his own morals. And I'm like, that's storytelling.
I think it became even more sad for him, at least that's how I looked at it. It's when he has his birthday, and he has to blow out the candles, and they tell him that make a wish, and he asks, like, anybody wants anything, and they are like, it's your wish, and the look on his face, like, my wish, I have a wish, it's me.
That's the beginning of. Is that the
I
beginning
think
of
it's
season?
season 3.
It's the beginning of season 3. I think that one. I think is more important in the other direction. I think he doesn't have. I think the important thing there is that he doesn't have a wish because he feels like he's got everything he wants now. Because he's back with his family and he feels like he has a home to return to.
I don't know. For me, it came off as a, I can have a wish kind of moment. Like, for me at least, like that's how I received that message. But I see what you mean. Like, that's a fair point as well.
Because I think the beginning of the season 3 is a very unique place for the fact that because both of the kids are actually in a good place for the first time in a very long time. So like Tommy's in a good place because he's got work and he's looking after people, and that's the kind of the thing I think he's always wanted to do. I think he always wanted to look after people and just kind of forgot how to do that properly. And I think that scene is actually way more about Kevin than it is anything else. I think he's trying to give that wish to Kevin in that moment because he thinks his dad needs it more than he does.
Maybe, yeah.
Because he probably does. Oh, Kevin. I will get into Kevin in a minute. Oh, God. Because I love Kevin. But he's so not okay at any point. But I think also Margaret Qualley, whose name I can't remember now off the top of my head. What's her character's name? Shit. Why I love the names. Why do they not stick in my head, Lily?
Because it's not how our brain works.
It's like I can remember. I literally I can remember a date and an appointment. Jill, thank you. Jill at the beginning of series 3 is also like, yeah, I'm good now. I figured out how to be okay. I figured out that I'm allowed to be okay. And I think that is the whole point of the entire show, is that everybody goes, oh, I'm allowed to let myself be okay again. And I think Jill is the very, because like I think the thing that really puts her in perspective properly is that the Garveys at their best episode, because she is so depressed in that first series, and then suddenly you see how, but like she's the most, I think, and I hate to put it this way, but it seems like the only way I can kind of classically depressed. Like you look at her and she's doing reckless things and like, but like in that kind of very teenagery way, and then you see her before the departure and she's like, oh my God, this is a different child.
Yeah.
It was really, and it was like, oh right, her mother abandoned them because she had her own trauma going on, and her dad, who was already half checked out beforehand, feels like he has to stay with his family and doesn't feel like and kind of doesn't want to.
Yeah.
At least when we first meet him. So yeah,
I don't know, man.
Fucking depressed.
They are fucked up.
They're all fucked up. Everybody's fucked up. Nobody's well.
Up.
But actually, by the end, they kind of are again. That's the big thing. And that's, I think, the big reason why I love the show so much is that because I've said this, I don't like depressing for the sake of, that kind of goes, it purposely feels like it's depressing you because it wants to depress you. This always felt that there was a purpose to it. And it always felt like to me that there was an undercurrent of things can get better, we just don't know how to get there yet.
Yeah.
Which is, I think that's way more of an interesting narrative than everything's shit and nothing can be okay again. Which is part of the reason why I think, for both of us, the guilty run completely rubbed the wrong way. Because that's the whole, it's like, no, everything, they're like, nothing can ever be okay again. It's like, okay, but it can be. It's like, yeah, this thing happened, and we don't know what to do about it, but like, we're still here, so we should just get on with it.
I will actually, because I'm guessing that we're moving to Kevin shortly.
Kevin ties into Patty, and those two you can't talk about one without the other.
Yes, and I will do my Lily trivia. Which didn't happen in a while, so this
you
is
have trivia for me on my show.
I have trivia for you. So in the original book, Kevin is actually the mayor.
Yes.
And not the police chief.
Yeah.
I guess you know that.
Yeah.
Did you know that he's never depicted as a messiah, like ever?
Fascinating. That's something they did for the show.
Yeah. Is never shown to die. Never.
Okay.
And very importantly, he never meets Patty.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So they made a lot of interesting choices in this adaptation.
They
Huh?
did. And he also never questions his sanity. Like that never happens in the book.
And this
It's
Kevin
just-
does that a lot.
A lot.
So
So yeah,
much.
that's a little comparison with the book.
Fascinating.
Very very differs.
I
Like
can't
for me, the
imagine-
biggest one is just never meeting Patty.
I can't imagine Kevin without all of the other stuff. I can't imagine a Kevin who's not so embroiled in all that other, all the things you just mentioned, because they seem so integral to who he is, at least in the show, and because they are. Yeah.
They made him very different, I feel like, from the book. Like it's definitely one of the things that stood out for me. Like he was very different in the book, I feel like, in behavior and everything.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to Kevin, and I don't know if I've mentioned this properly before, or if I put it, maybe you've picked it up from me, but one of my favorite tropes in storytelling is the person who has like a ghost, or like just a person that only they can see and they end up talking to in like situations and nobody else can see them, and it kind of makes them seem crazy. I'm obsessed with that. Love it so much. Every time it comes up, I'm like, yes. It's one of the reasons why I love Klaus so much, because he's got like ghosts and I love it as a storytelling device. Every time I'm like, yes, it's so good. So season 2 happening and him having just like Patty in his ear the entire time, just being like, you suck, Kevin. Love it. And the fact that they aren't subtle with it at all, because they will play the Pixie song that they Where Is My Mind every time. I'm like, I love this. It's so good. And like, it just cracks me up. I have a very soft spot for Kevin. And I know you weren't huge on him.
I wasn't.
But he's just not okay ever.
That doesn't help his likability for me, unfortunately.
It's just like, I just found it. I think for me, the big part of that is that I think Justin Trudeau does just
He's
kind
great.
of the most phenomenal job with it. I think he brings a sense of like heartbreak to Kevin that would be missing with maybe somebody else.
Yeah.
I think Kevin. Again, it was one of these. This is a show that really kind of I understood the nuances of more because I watched it more. There were for a very long, and I've watched it a few times over. I've not seen the third series in its entirety since I saw it the first time, but I've seen the first two series a few times. And the thing that I got stuck on a few times was the fact that Kevin seems to end up in the same place twice. Because he's like
in season
at the end of season 1, because he goes back to his family, and then in season 2 he kind of does the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
But I think there is a very fundamental difference between the two, and I guess 3 by the end of when you get into season 3, is that in season 1 he was 1 foot out the door with his family before the departure, and then he kind of feels like he's stuck with them because Laurie left and he has to look after the kids. Even if he does love them, there was always a sense of him just like not wanting to be there.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. Asshole. Sorry.
I'm not saying Kevin's nobody in this show is perfect, but one of the things one of the millions of things I like about it is the fact that it is a show that it doesn't judge its characters. Really, it kind of goes, yeah, this guy these are all just the things that they do, and you are welcome to judge them yourself, but we aren't, as the narrative, going to judge them or like fail them on that fact.
Yeah.
We're just you're seeing hurt people as opposed to like good people and bad people, and I like that a lot. But I think the difference between series 1 Kevin and series 2 Kevin by the end of it is that season 1 Kevin decides that he wants to be with his family. He found a love in Nora, and he like rushes into the burning building to save Jill, which by the way is one of my favorite scenes. That
It's
whole
a very good scene.
Man, how great that is something else. End of season 2 Kevin has already decided he wants to be with his family, but feels like he can't because of Patty. And I think Patty is kind of the big reason why he doesn't. Because he feels crazy and he doesn't want to tell anybody because his dad was crazy and he doesn't want to be sent, but he doesn't know what to do with any of the stuff that's been going on. And then he dies a bunch.
He does. God damn.
He dies so much. But I love, and I love Spirit Quest. I love anybody who has to go through like physical representations of metaphorical like emotional things. I love the fact that season 2 is basically spent with Patty being like, "We are going to do battle, Kevin." Every time I was like, "What, are they going to get swords and like go stand in the forest or something? What does this mean?"
Yeah.
It's like, no, he just has to die, and then go and find her in a hotel and kill her. But then in the meantime, what he does is he understands her. I love so. I wish I could talk about this in any way that was like structured. But I just keep thinking of things. I'm like, that's great. That's also great. That is also great. What would you call it? The death episodes. Put it that way. The afterlife episodes that he does in the hotel. I want to hear your specific thoughts on those because we had a little discussion about specifically the last one, but I also love International Assassin very dearly because I think it's one of the points in the series where it goes, we're going to go balls to the wall insane in this one, gang. Kevin's dead. He's now in a hotel where he slides out of the bathtub naked. A lot of people were very pleased about that one on social media when it happened. Naked Kevin.
I wonder why.
And then he puts on a suit and therefore he becomes an international assassin.
That was just like
it cracks me up every time. But I want to hear, because like I've talked a lot. Those episodes, did you feel like they worked for you, or were they a bit too sort of left field, insane?
I don't like Kevin.
I know.
So that makes it a bit hard to like those episodes. I'm not saying they weren't interesting, because it was very interesting to actually watch it unfold, and maybe even make him a bit more of an understandable character, I would say. So it definitely succeeded on that, but it doesn't mean I like him. I still don't like him. But yeah, altogether, I think series-wise, like looking at the whole series, those are like not for me. Not for me. Not really for me. Not gonna lie. They are not bad. Like I still like the whole idea behind it, but I just couldn't really vibe with it. It's no.
Okay, but then we have to talk about the internet, the most powerful man in the world, and his identical twin brother, which is the almost like Kevin season finale. I would call it. Or series finale even. It's the second to last episode of series 3. It's kind of Kevin's wrap up episode, I'd call it, because then I'd call the actual finale Nora's wrap up episode. You know.
You mean like the whole finale, like the show?
No, so the end of the show, the end of series 3, the end of the whole show. So I think I'd call episode 7 kind of Kevin's finale, and then episode 8 Nora's finale, because it feels like it's very much framed through those two people. And I love Kevin's because it just starts out so ridiculous. I mean, the episode begins with a dick scanner. And it basically makes a joke about how big his dick is, and I think it's like, this show is ridiculous. At one point we're discussing the meaning of life, and the next point, man's putting his dick on. It's so stupid. And yet, by the end of it, I was weeping. Because, yeah, it's the whole scene with him reading out of the book of Kevin, and just being, like, having to actually look himself in the face and be like, you fucked up. We fucked up a lot, and we have to this may not be fixable now. Especially with Nora. And because we talked about this, I know that this affected you because you said so.
It did.
It did. Yeah, there you go. I think that is, the writing became so stupidly good in that last season because they were just like, right, this is the end. We're going to do it.
Then you're gonna say it became so stupid, and I was like,
no, it became so stupid. It's ridiculous how good it. Like they just sort of went, fuck it, we're really gonna go for this, and it worked perfectly for them. Yeah, and then Nora's episode, which is, I think, actually, the first episode is called The Book of Kevin, and I think the last episode is called The Book of Nora. So that makes a lot of sense. I forgot that was the thing.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that that last episode does something very. I
will check now because I need to know.
I'm certain that the last episode is called The Book of Nora.
Yes.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So that.
Indeed.
Yeah, because the last time we see Nora before that point, it genuinely is like, we're not going to see Nora again. But, because it seems like she goes to where they went, which kind of links into the idea that you said that like they actually kind of explained what happened. But what I like about the finale is that with that last conversation, I think there's still a sense of like, did she actually go somewhere else and see all the things that she said she saw? Or does it like, and it's the kind of the conversation with the whole series, like, does it matter if it was real or not? Did it change you in some way? Yes, no, okay. Then that's the thing that matters. So I think the thing that when Nora's doing that whole thing about like talking about where she went and what happened and realizing all the things that she did, and she goes, "Do you believe me?" And Kevin goes, "Of course I believe you." And because it was that, I think that in that moment is like, that's just the only thing Kevin ever wanted to hear from anybody. And I think it was the thing that he was terrified of with Nora in the first place, that she would just leave him. And I think he honestly kind of got confirmed a little bit, because he was just like, hello, Patty died in front of me and now I can see her ghost. And then she went, right, I'm taking the child.
Yeah.
And it's like, fair enough. But not a good idea for Kevin right now. He's gonna head off into the woods and drink some poison.
It's what I was doing actually.
Yes.
Because
I can see your phone.
Yeah. It's on. I had these articles saved from IndieWire, because I will say the name in a second. Ben Travers, from IndieWire, was actually writing about leftovers a lot, like from episode to episode.
Yeah.
And I really like one of the sentences he wrote at the season finale. But more than surprise, more than admiration, these final 72 minutes evoked an immense sense of relief.
You know what? Yeah, I think that is it. There is a sense of that last episode being like, time passes, we get better, and that's okay.
Yeah,
we can move away from tragedy and allow ourselves to be better afterwards. It doesn't mean that the thing mattered less. It just means that we left it behind.
Yeah. So and he wrote like many, like I had figured out a lot of things through him. While I was watching the show, I was like, oh yeah, shit. Because I'm not that great at it. Look, I can notice little things, and then there are things that needs to be pointed out to me. I'm not gonna lie, like, you know. For example, I love music, and I love when they use music correctly in any form of media, like whether it be a movie or a TV show. And he was the one who actually pointed out that over the last 3 episodes, the credit music told a lot about the series than the episodes themselves. If you look back at them, and I was like, that's very, very interesting.
You bring up a good, interesting point, because I don't actually, because this bit, I haven't actually seen those last 3 episodes since I saw them for the first time, so I don't remember what they did for the music or anything like that. But point one, the score. Max Richter did the score.
Very good.
It's so. I've listened. It's one of those rare ones that I love. I do love the soundtracks for a lot of things, but it's not very often that I seek them out to listen to them again. This one I've listened to quite a lot because I think that piano melody that he came up with for a lot of it is so haunting and like is. I think the main reason I have such a very specific feeling that I get from it, because it really sets the tone for me. But then the other thing I was going to say, because you said that you said something about like setting up and understanding what the series is about from a different perspective for just through the music. What I wanted to ask you about was whether or not you understood the openings to series 2 and 3 at all, because they are quite avant-garde.
I don't know. I don't think I did, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie. I watched it. You know this. Now they're gonna know. I watched a lot of this while I was drawing. So I might not have paid good enough attention.
They are incredibly like they're metaphor heavy, right?
Yeah.
So
I might have. Yeah. I got confused.
Yeah. So the opening to series 2 for people who don't know and are still listening to this and apparently are just going to spoil the whole thing. I don't think that matters too much. I think you should just go into it anyway. But the opening to series 2 starts in caveman times with a woman leaving a cave, classic sort of cave woman clothes, for a pregnant woman going out for a pee, and then an earthquake happening, which basically separates her from her entire sort of community, at which point she gives birth and then gets bitten by a snake and dies, leaving her child behind. And I think it's very heavily implied that this area that she's in is the lake, the lake in Miracle, where the water, that people end up saying that the water is the thing that's going to keep them safe from if another departure happens, that sort of thing, which then becomes quite important later because it's another earthquake that then drains that lake and means that Kevin doesn't die. One of the million times that he did.
Million times. Kevin just dies. Yes.
Again, side tangent, I think one of my favourite ones is when he gets shot by John, who I found to be one of the toughest characters to get on with, but I actually ended up very much enjoying when he came back in series 3, because he's so like militantly against the idea that miracles could be a thing. But then when he comes back and he's like gut shot and he's bleeding, he goes, "I shot you," and he goes, "You should be dead," and you're dead, and he goes, "Nope." It's like it's moments like that are the reason that I like Kevin. He's just like, fuck it. I know I should be dead. You don't get to talk to me about this stuff right now. Yeah. I just sung Homeward Bound on stage in a hotel. Again, weeping.
Sure.
And then I know I have to remind myself of that. I think it's like a whole thing to do with like she is separated from her community and that's the thing that kills her because she's not got that sort of sense of community about her. And then there's something to do with the baby being like a symbolic of like something else. I don't remember the specifics now. If I watch it in context, I understand it more, but like trying to bring it to mind now, I'm like, I don't remember all this. It's like it's very metaphor heavy. But then series 3 goes even further in that direction where it goes to like Puritan times and has like a whole bunch of people waiting for the end of days, and then like a whole community of like, we figured out the day, they've done all the sort of fake maths, and it's like, it's gonna be this day, this is when the Great Flood is gonna come, and we all have to wait for it, and like it's that whole thing is like it's a test of faith, right? So it's like they eventually the whole village gives up on it because it keeps not happening, but there's this one family that keeps doing it, and then specifically the mother who does it multiple times and ends up becoming like isolated from. I think she's meant to be like symbolic of Kevin and his journey, basically. Like, in some ways, I'm not sure. I can't remember how that sequence ends now, which is very annoying because it's been a while. But they're so. I know it's every so often somebody comes along and goes, "Hey, what the fuck is this?" It's like. I wish I could explain it to you properly, but I think some of the smarter people than me have put this down in text that you can read.
I had to read a lot about this.
I did read. The AV Club have a similar thing that they do, where they do episode by episode reviews of certain things. I read them all for The Leftovers. I've done them for they do great ones for Succession, because that's another show that is very good at like showing you stuff and then kind of hoping that you'll figure it out. And every so often I'm like, I'm not smart enough to figure what the fuck this actually means. So I go and read like a little review. It's like, maybe somebody can explain it to me a little bit better.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is such a bad thing. I do like those little reviews.
Yeah. There are some really good ones out there, like, you know, and actually have ones I'm not gonna lie, like, okay.
Yeah, I think
I had to do that with Leftovers.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what the fuck?
Why are all these Puritan people standing on a roof waiting for death to happen?
You know, I'm just peacefully drawing something.
I think
and then
actually
suddenly...
that one's a little bit easier to understand than the cave woman one, to be honest.
Well, it is. It is. It was a bit more clear.
Yeah. Man, I'll talk about it forever, but like, I love... There are some of the characters we haven't even touched on. I think Regina King is such a phenomenon in it as well.
Beautiful.
I love... There's a scene in series 2 where Nora feels like she's kind of got a one-up on her on like family trauma. There's a sense of like, oh, I have it worse off because she lost so much in the departure. She kind of she wears that for a while as sort of I got more hurt than all of you, and therefore I have a right to be more hurt than you, which I like, because it's like, that's not a good character trait, but it makes it very interesting. But there's that great scene in series 2 where she's like, these are the questions, because like there's a sense of like maybe Evie departed. They have to try and figure out whether or not that was real or not. And there's a scene where, because Nora works for the departure agency to figure out whether these departure things are true or not, and she's asking her the questionnaire. And there's like a battle going on in that scene where Nora's kind of like, I'm going to get you with this because I know your daughter didn't depart, but she turns it back around on her and is just sort of like, hey, do you remember all of these things about your kids? And Nora crumples. And I think it's those two actresses going up against each other is like that's one of the joys of being able to watch like good TV like this. Like, where else can you get these two these two powerhouse actresses being able to just like absolutely kill it? So,
yeah. It really is. It really is something very special. But not rewatchable.
See, here I am thinking like, I got part the way through series 3 and then I got very close to the fight in series 3 in Australia. In the hotel room.
Yep.
And I kind of didn't want to see it again because that's a painful episode. Because there
are a lot of those in this.
But that one in particular, I found
that's true,
because that one really has the sense of like, there's no coming back from this.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, that is really a proper divergence, because like we only have 4 episodes left from that point, and there's a sense in your mind from the first episode of seeing Nora like old and not with Kevin delivering doves somewhere else, and you're just sort of like, oh my god, they're not, something happened, and like this is the thing that happened, and we know that they're not going to come back together at this point. What the fuck?
Yeah, that's true.
That is the way you make flash forwards work for you.
Oh yeah.
I find flash forwards often hurt more than they help a narrative. I'm looking at you, Lost.
Have you ever watched? Because I don't even know. Have you ever watched This Is Us?
I watched a lot of. I got part the way. I watched series 1, part the way through series 2. It was one of those shows that was on around the time I was doing my A levels, so I kind of lost. I didn't keep up with it as much, so I tend to read about it and then we'll see certain. My mum still watches it; she loves it.
Yeah.
And it's not like I didn't like it or anything, but that you're right.
Yeah, because flash forwards are brilliant. Like they do that very well. It's actually one of the shows where I do love it. How they do it. And it's coming to an end.
Yeah, last season comes out next year.
January. Yeah, January. It's going on in January. So, you know, I recommend going back because there are some very good shit in there.
Studying K. Brown, man. He's just excellent.
Oh.
My mum also, funnily enough, another Kevin. Loves Kevin in that.
Yeah.
Absolutely loves him. And I keep.
I mean, she's completely fair. Like you know, it's fair. My favorite is Randall.
Yeah, I mean, I love Randall as well. I keep vaguely up to date with like some of the bits. I don't know everything, but I know like a lot of. So I know that they're not currently on the best of terms.
Nah, which is very sad.
Should be nice. You know, they're going to end up coming back to each other by the end of it because they're siblings and they love each other.
They do. I hope so.
They wouldn't leave it like that.
I really hope so because it would piss off a lot of people.
Yeah, they wouldn't leave it like that. That would be insane.
Yeah, but I because flash forwards work in this one, like Leftovers does it really well as well. But also that's just reminded me that this does flash forwards really well as well. Like you know, it's hard to do flash forwards. It can be very annoying.
I think the thing that you have to be careful about is that there's a sense of like. I bring up Lost because that's the part of the reason I stopped watching in series 4 because I felt like it basically embedded the show with like an absolute sense of hopelessness that I couldn't get on board with because it wasn't a sense of hopelessness that came out of a situation. It came from, oh, I know how this is going to turn out, so I don't want to watch this anymore. That was the impression that like I ended up getting out of it, as opposed to like the sort of sadness that comes out of this that just comes out of like this. You don't know what's going to happen in this show, really, for the most part.
Yeah.
So when sad stuff happens, you still have a sense of like things can change, and I think so that it becomes sort of difficult when you then shove in like flash forwards that shows like bad things they still happen at this point, and you kind of go, well, why do I want to see that? I don't want it.
Yeah. That's true. That is true. But yeah. Any last thoughts on the left?
I was going to ask you that because I mean I felt like I've rambled enough.
You did. You poured all your love on it. I mean, I think I said it all. I do think it's a brilliant show. You know, it's very well built up, and Damon Lindelof is just fucking brilliant as a writer, like you know. But yeah, it's a very heavy one. So once again, I would definitely say that you need the right mindset for it. So you know, if you're already feeling a bit down, don't start watching
this is not what I would call a feel good show.
It's not.
But if you want to have one of those sort of cathartic, I think,
that's
senses of like understanding your place in the world kind of shows, that this is the one for you.
It is. It's very good on that one. But yeah, it's just a very good show. It's very well done. Very, very well done.
At some point, I will pluck up the courage or like the motivation to write and figure out a way of like putting it all into like an article or an essay or something like that to figure out how to actually talk about it properly, because every time I talk about it I just go, and then there's this thing, and then there's this thing, and what about this little thing here, and this character, and this plotline, and all this sort of stuff, because I do have, it is one of the rarest things for me is being able to watch something and go, I just understand this entirely. Like I just get it. I get everybody in it. I understand everything it's trying to do. Everything clicked properly into place for me. Yeah. And I don't get that often. There's usually some things that I'm just like, nope, I don't understand this character at all. But like pretty much every single character I can look at and go, I get you. I understand exactly what your motivations and your kind of structure are, and I understand the theme without having to think too hard about it. Yeah,
that's the hardest thing to nail.
And it's the most unique atmosphere I think I've ever felt in a show.
That's true. It's a very good one on that. Even if I've been influenced by other things, and therefore I had a harder time getting into it. But yeah, it's true. It does have like a very, very interesting atmosphere. I still don't know if I am completely on board with it. Like it. Not gonna lie, I'm like after all that, I'm like, I don't know. I just, Yeah, I get everything you said. I agree with 100%. And obviously watching the show is makes it even clearer, if that's possible. But at the same time, I'm just missing that. Like, I can't put it into words. What I'm missing exactly.
This is definitely for me a very emotional sort of like piece, and it just happens to have a lot of storytelling aspects in it that I will go for every time. Right?
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, I love sort of people going slightly crazy when they have like a one person in there that nobody else. That cracks me up every time. I like the fact that this show balances its complete like depressing sort of nature with like absolute absurdity. Like it goes really far into the sort of like, we're going to be very insane here, but like never in a way that makes it feel like they've just gone straight into comedy. It still feels important, and it still feeds into the themes of what's going on.
That's true.
And I like really complicated, kind of fucked up characters.
I can tell.
I think they're more interesting than people who are just sort of like, this is the good guy, this is the bad guy.
It's fair.
Because I don't think that, apart from Meg, who is a bad guy.
It's awful.
I don't really think there are good guys and bad guys in this so much. Even Patty, who I didn't talk about very much, but I think is Ann Dowd is she's I think the only person who got nominated for the show for an Emmy.
I think so.
And as much as again Carrie Coon should have been nominated and also should have won multiple times, Ann Dowd is definitely a standout in those first. She really does bring a lot of like. She's so funny in it as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I have to agree.
Kevin's there just like, everything's shit. And it's like, yes, Kevin, everything is shit, isn't it? I mean, fucked it up again, Kevin. It's just sort of like, no wonder he gets so angry with her, but it's so good.
Yep. Yeah. I also realized what was the other episode that didn't have any music at the end. I will close it down with that. It was Certified in season 3.
Which episode is that? I don't think I've gotten to that one again.
Wait, I will tell you in a second.
Give a number.
Was it Certified? Give me 1 second.
That's not that can't be the it's not the one on the boat with Matt and the lion.
It's the Australia one.
There's a lot of they end up in Australia and then they stay in Australia for the latter. It's episode 4.
Yeah, that's true. It's
the burning of the Kevin book, leaving Nora alone in her hotel room, smoking a cigarette as the rain comes down around her.
Yeah, it becomes like, I didn't check the episode title, so it becomes very hard for me to identify them.
Okay. That's when they find out that Matt's
It is, isn't it?
That's the one where you think that Laurie might have
Oh yes. Okay, wait.
I was worried about that one. I was really glad that they decided not actually to.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, that one was a.
Yeah. I got it now. Yeah. So that was the one where it didn't have any music in the end.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It bugged me. Like, I remember that was another episode, but I didn't remember which one it was.
That was an intense one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Again, I think actually as a warning for that one in particular, that one's pretty heavy on the suicide as a topic within that one. So if you are going into that, be careful.
Very true.
That one was rough.
It was. It truly was.
But it turned out okay by the end, as you find out. Because I wasn't really worried.
Indeed. All right. And then I think this is the end of The Leftovers episode.
I'll stop talking about it so much now.
I know it's hard, Katie. You did well.
Thank you.
think you
really? I feel like I spoke for most of the episode.
I loved it. Like, I really wanted this because, I think you have a much deeper connection with it than I do, which is completely fair. Like, we all have our favorites. I was able to talk about mine, but I loved hearing your thoughts because we never really talked about it. So,
No, I did make. I will
take it away.
Yeah, I think I've done that already. I think we can just. I won't take it away anymore. I've done the taking.
You did, and it was brilliant. I really liked it. I enjoyed listening to you. So it's okay. It's okay.
Oh my
I
god,
said
the
what
Leftovers wiki has a thing that's called analysis and recurring themes and literary techniques on the Wikipedia page.
Very interesting.
Last thing.
Very good.
Very last thing.
Yes.
One of the things I loved about the marketing for the show is every single one of the season posters was phenomenal. So this is the one for season 1. I actually had
a really good one.
The one for season 2 I actually had as my background before. I think I mentioned it. It's in the water with Kevin with the cinder block tied to his leg, kind of falling down, and then Nora trying to go and pointing down to him from that point, which I think is also phenomenal. I think I have it saved. I don't need to do that right now. But then the third one, I was so happy that it was so beautiful when it came out. Is Kevin. Nora kind of holding Kevin from behind, and it's this kind of wall. I just realized it's the same wall, which is great. It would the wings behind it.
The wings, yeah. You can't see it properly, but yeah, it's there.
It's every single one. I think they're just beautiful images, and really they are something.
Very well done.
Oh my god, there's a full breakdown of all the themes in the episodes. I'm gonna read.
There you go.
I'm gonna go mad reading this now.
You will. I know you will.
I won't do it on stream though. We'll end it here.
Yes. So take care, guys.
Yes.
We see you next time. And next time it will
be on
our
Thursday,
old form.
and we won't be here in time. We'll one of both of us will be in the chat probably. It depends on whether I remember. Lily may be in a cinema.
I might be. It's my cinema day, so that's why it's gonna go back to pre-recording. All right. Take care, you all.
Very well, friends. Right. I'm going to push the end stream button now. Goodbye.
We love you.